Hello lovely couples and welcome back to my channel. I'm Lauren, wedding planner and owner of Bluebird Creative. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to my channel and don't forget to hit the bell so that you'll be notified every week when a new video lands. If you are recently engaged, congratulations, and I hope you find this channel helpful. There are so many videos to help you on your wedding planning journey. This week's video in particular, I am actually going to be looking back again and letting you know what I wish I knew when planning my own wedding. I'm putting myself back into your boots and hopefully I'm just able to give you some advice on where to kind of start and what would help you and what I didn't have to help me. And now I know what I know, obviously being a wedding planner, what things would actually have been helpful. I hope that makes sense. So let me stop beating around the bush and let's just jump straight in to this week's video. So the way I've broken this video down is into kind of like 5 points, but I think they do actually interlink a little bit as well, but I will try and go through them in points, if that makes sense. So the first thing that I've written down is that I wish I'd known a little bit more about budget. So when I was doing my own wedding planning, let me just give you a little bit of a backstory. Basically, I think I'd had one friend get married, maybe 2. So I hadn't been to loads of weddings to get loads of ideas, any of that really. And I was just basically going off the back of that one wedding or those 2 weddings. And one of those weddings I was a maid of honour, so I kind of knew the process that they'd gone through a little bit, and I wasn't a wedding planner back then. So I didn't really know what to do. I just followed their structure. And I kind of regret that. It was like a lazy way of planning. I didn't actually go and do my research. So I think that is the first point really, is that research your options. In fact, I've written down options as one and research as another. So this is where this video is probably going to get confusing, but do your research. Use Instagram. I wasn't really using Instagram there at all. And I don't know if businesses were using Instagram as much as they are now. It was 6 years ago. So they were, but not in the same way. And you can get so much information for free. I mean, there's this YouTube video for starters. There's other people doing YouTube videos. There's other suppliers. Instagram, there's so much information. Pinterest, there is literally so much information available to you now. So use it, do your research, get inspiration, see what's available, see what advice people are giving you. Speak to suppliers, they'll recommend other suppliers, they'll help give you ideas. I did not do any of that. I was lazy, but I didn't realise I was being lazy because I didn't know what I was doing. So I think looking back now, knowing what I know, I would do more research and know that look into the different options, because that moves on to my second point of options. Is I did not know what the options were. I did not know half the things I had options on, like the chairs at the venue. They're not actually, or they weren't at the time, the venue's chairs. They hired them in, but they always hired in these particular chairs, which I'm pretty sure at the time were gold and they were quite ugly. I didn't know that I had an option to choose different chairs. I mean, really? I didn't know that because nobody told me that, and I didn't know to ask that. They just told me that this is the charge for the chairs and you pay that. I didn't know that I could upgrade and change the chairs. It's really simple things like that. I didn't know that I could speak to my caterer and change, honestly, this is ridiculous, change the layout of the tables for the wedding breakfast. They just sent me the table plan. I was like, okay, that's the table plan. And then we placed everybody knowing the table plan that they tend to use. I didn't think that I needed to change it. I mean, I didn't need to change it, but I could have, and it was an option. But I didn't ask because I didn't know. Really simple things like that. Again, I was just following this formula of this 1 or 2 weddings that I'd attended, and that was it. One of the other tips is budget. Now, you know I harp on about budget all the time, and it is so important when you're planning your own wedding to be on top of your budget, to set out right from the start with a budget, to split your budget into suppliers so that you know who to approach. I did none of that. I didn't have a clue. I got given a spreadsheet from a bride who was a friend of a friend, and she sent me her spreadsheet of how she'd broken down her wedding, and I kind of just followed that, which didn't massively help me. The only thing that it did do was tell me all the things that I needed to consider within my planning, which was super helpful at the time. But we didn't actually sit down and work out what our budget was for the wedding. I mean, really? Which is why I tell everybody now, like, this is so important. You cannot plan a wedding without knowing your budget. And when I say you cannot, you can just make it more stressful. You obviously can, but you'll make it more stressful. So I wish somebody had sat down and told me the things that I'm telling you about budget, because oh my gosh, it is so important. You'll actually know what you're working with. You'll know what suppliers to approach. You'll be able to say to the supplier, this is the budget I have, instead of going, I don't know, how much is that going to cost? Because that is not how you should do it, because that's where the money spirals out of control. Stop making noises, Lauren. Budget is key. Budget is so key, and I didn't have a clue. Was just making it up and just letting the budget add up. It was crazy. And therefore loads of things had to be DIY'd because we were like, oh, we haven't got the budget because of this, because of that. It was just insane. I was all over the place. Another thing that I wish I had known was that I could get hold of a checklist or a timeline. Now, I think back then, as I mentioned, Instagram wasn't really the place to do wedding research. Pinterest, I was all over that. I had boards and boards on Pinterest. And bridal magazines, which now just seem to be dying a death, which is super sad. But I had a few of those, and there were kind of some checklists in there, but they were all really contradictory and confusing and not relevant. They just had stuff in it that was just not relevant and not actually that helpful. And obviously now I provide a free wedding planning checklist for like 12 months, which you can stretch across a longer length of time, because I don't want brides feeling how I felt of, where on earth do I actually start? What do I do? And what really needs to be done at each point? Because these checklists that I was finding in magazines, I mean, I don't know who was putting them together, but I don't think they'd planned weddings. It was insane, and it was all things that weren't really that crucial, which is why in my checklist I've tried to include everything that's actually important in planning your wedding. So I wish I'd known somebody that could give me a checklist. I'd wish I'd known what to do at what point in my planning. I basically, as I said, just relied on the formula that somebody else had used, lent on my caterer and the venue a little bit in the hope that they were going to guide me in the right direction. I think I probably used my caterer and my venue as kind of like my wedding planner, but they're not wedding planners, and they obviously only focus in one department. So I was missing a lot of information. They're not at fault there. That's just, I didn't really know that I had options. So going back to that, I just did not know that I had those options. So moving forward with what I'm saying is basically, how can this help you? So first of all, do your budget work. I've got videos on budget work. I've got budget split documents. The links are in the comments box below. So please take them, they're free. You need them, they will help you. They will reduce the stress. I wish I had a checklist. I've made one for you. Again, in the link below, take it, use it, please. I hope it makes it easier for you. Do your research. Get on Instagram, get on Pinterest. Pinterest is great for ideas, but Instagram is great to connect with businesses that are local to you, that are working in the venue that you work at. And you don't always have to go to your venue and look on their recommended suppliers. You can look on Instagram and see who's tagging that venue. There's loads more suppliers out there that work there that perhaps just aren't on the list. So do your research, find people that suit you, speak to your suppliers, speak to your potential suppliers. They're always willing to discuss other suppliers and recommendations and give you advice, because us as an industry, we are filled with information and we are willing to give it to you for free, like this video and all the others. So do your research, reach out, speak to people. Don't feel like you can't ask us, because we're willing to help you. I know sometimes it's a case of you didn't know that that was a question that you needed to ask, and I totally get that. But hopefully by having conversations, it will make you have light bulb moments of what to ask. So there you have it. I hope that's not too gobbledygook this week, and that just gives you a little bit of insight as to what I wish I'd known and how you can use that to your advantage, and what I've created for you because I didn't know that. I hope that makes sense. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. I cannot wait for next week's video because I'm going to be doing another one in our style sessions. If you didn't catch the first one in the style sessions series, then I will link that for you up here. Make sure you grab that ready in time for next week. Have a wonderful week, guys, and I will see you next week for some more wedding planning goodness. See you later.